Hi everyone, welcome to channel Qtomation. In today's session, we will see about extent report usage in REST Assured. So far, we have seen various concepts around REST Assured API automation. Today, we will see what is exactly extent report. So, as the name suggests, extent report. So, report it's basically open source interactive HTML reporting library for Java and .NET automation testing. It is used to generate detailed, visually appealing reports of test execution results. So, main usage of extent report is basically to display the test report after the test execution. It provides advanced features beyond built-in framework report. So far, we have used TestNG. In TestNG, we also get some basic test report, but by using extent report, it can give you some advanced pie charts, interactive elements like screenshots, test failures, custom tags, search functionality, and themes, etc. So, Extent Report gives you some more interactive and advanced UI for report generation. Extent Report offers enhanced visibility and customization for automation frameworks like Selenium, TestNG, JUnit, making it easier to understand and analyze the test outcomes. Extend reports is logger style reporting library for automated test. So we will see practically what exactly is logger style reporting library for automated test. A logger basically a simply an object to log the messages or events for a specific system or application. We will see practical example, then we will understand how we can generate extend report and what is exactly logging style which can be used in extend reports. Basically, it adds the information about test sessions, etc. So to show you on high level what exactly extend report and how it looks. So let me just quickly show you when you execute the test cases. It can be API or it can be a UI automation test cases. After test execution gets completed, some test cases will pass, some test cases will fail. And if you use extend report in your project, you will see some UI like this. So we can generate and log different type of information in those reports. So if you see, these are the test cases. These are the test cases and its status. For example, it is pass, one test case is failed. It will also show you some information. For example, timestamp, what type of logs we have to display. For example, here we can see that it is showing that on which URL post request was sent. What was the request payload that got generated and sent in that post request? What is the response which was received and what is the status code and overall test status after assertions. So all this information we can see in test report. That is basically extend report which we can use. Similarly, it can show you some pie charts as well. When the test case execution started, when the test execution completed, how many test cases passed, how many failed. It can show you in the form of pie chart as well. So which basically it gives you enhanced reporting capability. So that's the high level usage of extent report. What are the key features and benefits of using extent report? First of all, it is interactive HTML reports. Extent report is interactive HTML reports. It generates beautiful, navigable, HTML reports that can be opened offline as well. It will give you detailed test information like how many test cases passed, how many test cases failed, if there are any skipped test cases, execution time, and different type of logs which we want to see after test execution. It gives you enhanced visibility. It can include charts, tags for filtering, and summary table for better analysis. It gives you option to customize. In Extend report, it will allow for customizing the report's appearance. Like if you want dark theme or if you want white theme, any type of custom markup, and organizing reports by categories. So customization is also provided in Extend report. It can also support attaching screenshots and exception stack traces to failed test steps. So whenever any test case fails, we can also display different type of exceptions in the report. Integration. It easily integrates with popular automation frameworks and CI/CD tools like Jenkins. And it is basically provides logger style API. It provides a flexible logger style API to log events and test steps sequentially. And on high level, how actually it works. So if you see Extend report documentation, you will get all the information on their website. But let's understand on high level how it works. So first step is integration. A project needs to integrate to the Extend report library, which is available for Java and .NET. Then comes the configuration part. So we have to configure a reporter such as Extend HTML reporter to define where the report will be saved. Then comes logging. So we can use the Extend report object, create the test, log the events with status.pass or status.fail. And at last it comes with flushing. We have to use the flush method, which is called to write all the collected test information to the report. So when we will actually practically do the stuff, then we will understand in better manner. But just understand on high level. So these are the four important steps to use Extend reports in our project. So first one is integration, configuration, logging, and flushing. So now how to use the Extend report in our project, that we will see practically also. So for that, first we have to import Extend report dependency in our project. So in pom.xml, we have to import Extend report dependency. So first we have to import Extend report dependency in our pom.xml. So you can simply search on the Google. If you simply search Extend report dependency, you will see this Maven repo. Inside this Maven repository, if you see Extend reports, and this is the latest version 5.1.2, you can simply copy this dependency and let's go to Eclipse. Inside our Eclipse project, we have to paste that dependency in pom.xml file. So you just have to open pom.xml, and in the pom.xml, in dependency tag, we can simply paste this. So once you paste it, it will automatically import all the classes etc. for Extend reports in our project. So that is the first step. Copy the dependency, paste in pom.xml. That's it. So it will bring Extend report classes in your project. After that, what is the next step now? So we have imported Extend report dependency in our project. Now next step is In real time project, we can have multiple test classes. We can have n number of test cases and different type of classes as well, test classes. Now we can write, but it is not advisable to write the code which is similar for all the test cases every time in every test case. So to use extend report, what we will do, we will write one base test class and we will write all the logic which is required to use extend report in one single class, that is base test we can say. And that class will be inherited in test classes. So test classes will extend that base test class which contains the logic of extend report generation, so that if there are 10 test classes file, we don't have to write logic for each and every class separately. We can simply reuse the base test class. That's why we will use the concept of inheritance. We will define all the logic once in our base test class, and by inheriting that base test class, we will use that logic in all the other test classes for extend report generation. So now let's write our base test class. So in Eclipse, first let's write base test class. So let's create a new class. I'm naming it as base test, and one by one now I will write the code which is required for generating extend report. So how to input? So first step was we have to copy paste extend report dependency in our pom.xml file. Now let's see how we can write the logic for extend report. So first step, in the base test class, I will go step by step. And at last we will see how we can use that logic in our actual test class. So base test class, let's create. Inside the base test class, first thing we have to create is extend reports object. So I will just write inside this class, I will first create extend reports. It is a class. Extend reports is a class. For that class, I will just write one object, let's say extend, and along with that we have to also create one more object, that is for extend test class. Now where we will use this, that I will show you in some time, but let's pay attention to the steps. So let's import extend report from com.eventstack.extend reports package, and similarly let's import extend test also from extend reports package. So that is the first step. So what we have done so far is we have created base test class, and inside this class we have created two objects, that is extend and test. Extend is for extend reports class and test object is for extend test class. So this extend is the main extend reports object that is used to configure and manage the report. So whatever report we will be generated, that is handled by this extend reports object, that is extend. And test represents the current test entry in the report. So if you write 10 test cases, each test cases, suppose you have test class file, in that test class file you have 10 test methods. Every test method will be associated with this test object, that I will show you in some time how it will be associated with this test object. But just understand, this test object represent the current test entry in the report. That is one extent test per test method. And by using this test object, we can use test.info, test.pass, test.fail on this object. So first, let's understand. First, we have to create base test class. And what this base test class will do? First, we will create and configure the extent reporter once before all the tests run. So before all the test cases, all the test method, before running all those test methods, we have to create and configure extent reports reporter. After that, we have to create extent test entry for each test method before it runs. And then we have to attach the test results including failure and pass test case to the extent report. And at last we have to flush, write the HTML report after all the tests complete. So these are the four main steps which are involved in extent report generation, and all these steps we are configuring inside the base test class. So we have so far completed only first step. So we have created object for extent reports and extent test. We have created object for extent reports and extent test. After that, I will write one more annotation, that is at the rate before class. Before class annotation is used to execute certain block of code before execution of all the test methods present inside that class. So at the rate before class in testng, it is a testng annotation. Whatever code block will use the before class that runs only once before any test method in the class. So if you have one class and in that class we have 10 test method, so before class will run only once before any test methods in that class, and it is usually used to initialize the shared resources. So let me write the code first. So inside this at the rate before class we have to write one method that is called, let's say, public void setup. So this will execute once before all the test methods. It is basically setting up the things for all the test methods. Inside this we will write extent is basically new extent reports object. So we have initialized extent object for this extent reports class. Next step is we have to write extent spark reporter. Now what is this? That I will explain in some time, just understand. Extent spark reporter, we have to create one object for that. Spark equal to new extent spark reporter, and inside this we have to pass the folder or path where we want to generate the report file. Now let's say in my project, so this is my base project, so this is my project. Inside this project, whenever the test execution gets completed, I want to generate the test report. So I'm just naming it as, or I'm just giving the path like this. Let's say my test report slash file name. So I will just write all test report dot html. So what it will do, once your test execution gets completed, it will generate all test report dot html file inside this my test report folder. This folder will be generated in your project. You can give any name, you can give any name to file as well, you can give any name to this folder as well. Let's import extend spark reporter. So this is basically path of that file which gets generated after test execution. So this is our main HTML report file. And now by using this spark object, let's configure few more things. So spark.config. So this method is used, spark.config, and we can use, let's say, dot set document title. It will give you title of that specific report page. Let's say I'm just naming it as API test report. We can also configure like this also. So let me just configure one more thing. Spark.config set report name. So I want to set report name. Let me just name it like this. So let me just name it rest assured plus extent report demo. So this is the name of the report. Now where it will display in report, that we will see after the test execution. And after that we have to attach that reporter. So that for that we have to use extent object, extent dot attach reporter method, extent dot attach reporter, and inside this we have to pass this spark object with the configuration which we have set. Along with that, we can also provide some useful system info. Useful system info like, let's say, extent dot set system info, that is a method. Environment, so let's say on which test environment we are executing the test cases. So let's say environment is demo environment. It can be anything depending on your project and on which environment you are executing it. You can also provide some more information. Let's say I want to provide information like tester name, let's say Jack. So that is basically one time setup method which will be executed before any test method executes in the specific class. So let's import this before class from TestNG annotations. Let's save this. So what we have done so far, first we have imported dependency in pom.xml. That was the first step. After that, we have created one class, that is base test class, just to write the logic and configuring the extent report setup so that it will be reused in all the other test classes. After that, we have created @before class annotation. Inside this before class annotation, what we are doing, we have created new extent reports object that will create the extent report manager. We have also created one object for extent spark reporter class, in which we have to pass the path. This is the file name and this is a folder where the test output file will be generated, report file will be generated. If you want to add different time step, that also we can add, but currently I'm not adding it. Then we have created spark.config method, dot set document title and dot set report name. It will set the browser tab title and report header name. That is basically configuration. And then what is the next step? Extend dot attach reporter. It will link the Spark reporter to the manager so it knows how to write the output. And at last we have generated extend dot set system info to set the information about environment, tester name, etc. It is useful for debugging CI versus local runs. So these are the steps we have included in before class method. Inside before class annotation, we have used these steps. Now the next step is, after writing @before class, I will write @before method. So before executing every test, so if you have 10 test cases and before executing each and every test case, we have to follow certain steps. So we have to fetch certain info from each test case. For that, I am just writing one more method here, public void before method. So this will be executed. So this method will be executed before every test execution. Every test method execution, before that it will be executed. That is the @before method annotation. So this code will be executed before each and every test method. Inside this I will write test equal to. So if you remember, we have created one object here, extend test test. So what this test denotes? This test basically associated with every test method. So I am just using extend dot create test, extend dot create test method dot get name. So I will just write method dot get name. Let's save this file. So inside the before method, @before method annotation, what we are doing? We are using test object, which denotes to extend dot create test method dot get name. But before that, we have to also follow one more step. What are these syntax that I will explain in some time, but just pay attention for that. So these are all the steps which are provided in their official documentation website of extend report as well. This is a one time activity. So let me just write the code. Java dot language dot reflect dot method here, so that we have to pass in this method. So this is basically @before method block. What we are doing here, let me just explain that. @before method, this is a test ng annotation that will be executed before each test method. So first we have written before class. Before class will be executed. This setup method will execute before all the test methods. So whatever class we are executing for test classes, before that specific test class, this setup will be executed. And before every test method, this @before method will be executed. And inside this, what we are doing here, the method parameter is the Java reflection method for test that will run. Now I will not explain in detail what is Java reflection, etc., but just understand that we are taking the context of each method which is under test execution. So method parameter is the Java reflection method for the test that will run. Then we have used extend dot create test method dot get name. It will create a new extend test in the report for the current test method and assign it to test field. So whatever test method is going to be executed, that will create a new extend test. So that object will be used to log the information. By using this test object, we can log different type of information. For that, we are just getting the context. So whatever test method is getting run, that test method will be associated with this test object. By using this test object, we can log different steps and different information specific to that specific test method. And after this line, inside the test, so whenever we will write the test case, I will show you, we can use test.info, test.pass, test.fail, etc. So with that test object, that will be associated with that specific method. That's why we are using method.getName here. So we can use that test object to write different steps, different information of that test case. After that, Let's continue our base test class. So we have written before method. Now comes the after method block. I will also write at the rate after method. It will be executed after every method. So before method will execute before every method. Similarly, after method will be executed after every test method. So let me just write public void after method is the method name. Inside this we have to pass I test result object, and inside this I will write some more line of codes and I will explain in some time. Let me just write those lines. So first is if block result dot get status equal to I test result dot failure. Then we will set test dot fail. Inside this we will pass result dot get throwable. Now this is basically used, so whenever the test case is failed it will generate some exception logs. Why the test case failed, all that information will be present in that logs. Those logs we are attaching to that test object. That is the high level understanding of this step in case of test failure. After that I will write else case, else if result dot get status result dot get status is equal to I test dot skip. Instead of failure we can also skip the test case. If the test case got skipped, then we will write one more block here. We will write test dot skip. Test dot skip, and we will write in comment test skipped, and we can also attach the log and stack trace. And at last we will just provide in else block test dot pass. We will simply write test dot passed. This is for simply passing scenario. So first we have written if block. This is the curly bracket for if block. Then comes the else if. It is open here, it is closed here. And at last this is the test case which is passed. So let me quickly check one more time. There is slightly some syntax mistake. So this is the if block which we have started. This is the curly bracket. That's it. So now error is gone. So what is this after method which we have written here? So what this after method will do? So let's understand that part. At the rate after method will run after each test method finishes. So inside the class there can be n number of test cases. Every time each test method is executed, this after method will execute. Inside this method, if you see, there is I test result. What is this I test result? I test result contains the test result. So when the test case gets executed, that test method gets executed, it will generate some test result. Either it will be passed, it will be failed, or it can be skipped as well. Whenever it is failed, it will throw some exception. It will give you some additional information as well. For example, execution time, method name, what are the different exceptions which occurred, why the test case got failed. So that information will be present inside this I test result object. So that's why we have to pass that I test result object here to get the information of that specific test method execution. And then we are checking with that information if result dot get status is equal to I test dot failure if the test case is failed. So if the test case is failed, we are logging test.fail with result.getThrowable. What it will do? It will attach the exception and all the stack trace to the test entry in the report. So whatever report we are going to generate, inside that report, I want to see that exceptions. I want to see those stack trace, why the test case got failed, etc. So to attach all the information, we have to use this method. It is very helpful for debugging purpose. And if the test was skipped, then we are using test.skip method. It will mark it as skipped and logs the reason. So if you see here, if the test case is failed, we are attaching all the exceptions, etc. inside the report. We want to print that inside our report as well. So that's why we are checking the status. If it is failure, then we will getting all those information and putting that information in our report. Similarly, if it is skipped, then also we are putting that information in our report. And if the test case is passed, then we don't have to attach that information in the report. It will simply log this information that is test is passed. So that is written inside this after method annotation. And at last, what we have to use is, so this is basically base test class. We have written before class, before method, after method, and now last one is, let me just write after class. So once entire class is executed, we have to follow certain steps that will be present inside this specific method which is using after class annotation. So I am just naming it as tear down method. So this method will contain the steps which we have to execute after the class execution is completed. So once all the test method are executed from that specific class, this test block will be executed. So inside this we have to write extend dot flush. Now what this extend dot flush method will do? This method is for writing all the information which we have received so far. All that information we want to write into the test report. So that's why we have to use extend dot flush method. What this will do? Extend dot flush, after it will write all the collected test data to the report file. If you don't use extend.flush, the report may be incomplete or it can remain empty as well. So that's why extend.flush is very important. It is the method which will write all the collected test data to report the file. And it will execute after class execution. So whenever all the methods are executed, that class execution is completed. After that, this test block will be executed. So these are the high level steps which we have written in our base test class. Now by using this base test class, so we have written the base test class. Now, by using this base test class, now we will actually write and use it in our test cases. So let's write this in our test cases. So first what we have to do, first we have to write some sample test case. So let's write some sample test case first. Let me create a new class far. So let's create a new class. So I'm just creating a new test class now. Let's name it as my test class. I have named it as my test class. So this is a simple test class which we have generated. Inside this I will write one simple test case which we have used in our previous sessions as well. So I'm just pasting it here. So inside the my test class I have written one test case, that is create product 1. That is the name of the test method. This is a simple test cases which we have used in our previous sessions. If you remember, we have used RESTful-API-dev website. Inside this RESTful-API.website, we have one post method. This is used to generate the product. So this is the request payload. This is the endpoint of the request, and this is the response which we will receive, in which this object gets generated. So this is the request payload and this is the response which we receive. Inside this request, this is a post request. It will use this request payload, and inside the response we will get 200 as a status code, and this specific object gets created, and that we will see in the response. That simple test case we are using here. So we are using hash map data object, in which we are passing the information like year should be 2019, price, CPU model, hard disk size. So this will generate the response payload. So inside this product data we are passing name and this data object. So this we have already seen in our previous session. So this is a simple post request which we are calling here. After that we have generated response class object res. In given section we are passing content type of application slash JSON. Inside the body we are passing this product data. This product data we are passing here. It is nothing but request payload which contain this information. So this is a request payload. So it contains the name like this and data JSON like this. So all this information is present inside this product data object. So we have used hash map, in which we are storing the request payload information, and that product data object we are passing inside the body. Then in when section we are calling the endpoint URL. We are storing the response inside this response object, and then we are comparing whether that response status is 200, and from the name we are receiving this specific name in our response or not. So that is the simple test case which we have written here. So if you execute this test case, let's say I'm just executing this method. So let's execute this specific test method. It will pass, and we can see the report in testng report normally. Inside the testng console or the console, it will show you whether the test case is passed or failed. So this is executing the test case. So far we have not implemented any report extend report here. If you see test run 1 and it is passed. So test case is passed, that we can see the information here. So that we have written the test case in our simply my test class. Now I will write 3 more test cases. I am just copying this test case. I will slightly modify it because our main focus is on extend report generation. So I'm just using this similar test case. Let's say 2. Rest of the details I am keeping it similar only. I am pasting it again for test case 3. test case number 3, and in this test case number 3 what I will do, I will intentionally fail this test case. So here instead of, when we are comparing, that name should be this one, I will just keep 17, or let's say adding some additional number here. So this will mismatch, assertion will mismatch and test case will fail. But still we are not using any extend report here. So how to use the extend report? So we have already written this base state dot base test class, which contains all the logic and configuration required for extend report. Now we just have to extend this class. So what is the concept of inheritance in Java is, if you want to use these methods etc from the base test, we have to simply extend this my test class. Let's use extends. Which class we have to extend? Base test. So it will automatically inherit all the methods present inside this base test class. So if you see here, we have written before class. So when we execute this my test class Java, this is a class which contains 3 test methods. So when you execute this specific test class, what will happen? So first this before class method will be executed. It will execute this before class test block. It will execute only once before all the test methods from this my test class executes. After that, one by one, every test case will execute. And before every test case, at the rate before method block will be executed. So it will know which test case is getting executed. All that information will be associated with this test object. And by using this test object, we can log different type of information which we require in our test report. So now let's use this test object. So this test object we can use like this. So let's say I want to print, or I want the information of to which endpoint, or let's say I want to print any. So after sending the request, so let's say after this step I just want to mention on which URL we want to send the request. So I can just use like this. So test dot info. So it will log the information. So whatever I will print here, it will log this specific information to test report that I will show you. So let me just write test dot info sending post request to. So we are sending post request to https api dot restful slash api dot dev slash object. So that is basically endpoint on which we are sending the post request. So I want to just log this information in my test report. And also I want to, so whatever payload which we are sending in the body here, that payload, request payload also I want to print in my report. So for that I am just using test.info. What is the request payload which we are sending that I want to print in my report? I am just printing, let's say, test request payload, this product data. So this product data is nothing but our request payload. That also I can print. So I will just know, just by looking at the report I will get this information. That is the use of test.info. And similarly I can also print the response as well. So let's say I want to, so here we are sending the request and receiving the response before assertion, and we are using the validations. But before that, let's say I want to check what is the response we have received. So I can simply use test.info response received. What is the response which we have received that I want to check? So I will simply use res dot as pretty string. So it will print in proper format. And I can also verify status code. So what is the status code which we have received? So that also I can print it in my report. Response dot status code. So this information will be printed in our test report. That's it. So this is the use of test object. So we can, whatever information we want in our test report, that we can print it by using test.info. Now similar steps I will add in other test cases as well. Control C, and in third test case also I will just add that information. That's it. And let's save this file. So this is our test class. Inside this test class there are three test methods. Two test methods will pass, but third will fail because we are mismatching here. We are intentionally want to fail the test case. So let's save this file. So inside this, if you see, at the rate after method will be called after every test case method will be executed. After that it will get the information. After each test method gets completed, it will check what is the status of that test case, whether it is failed or it is passed or it is skipped, and according to that it will get the exception logs, stack trace. It will print that information in report. And after every test case methods are executed, at last after class will be executed, in which extend.flush will be performed, and it will write all the test cases output in one file, and that file is present here. So this file will be generated, which we can open on the web browser and we can see the detailed report. So this is how we can configure extend report. Now let's execute it and let's see how it will generate the report and how it will look. So I'm just executing all the files as test-ng test. So all the three test cases will be executed. Two test cases will be passed, one test case will fail, and test output file will be generated for extend report. If you see, three test cases executed, one test case failed, and now if you see in our project, there will be test report. If you remember in base test.java, we have mentioned my test report. So let's see my test report. Okay, so once you execute, so in the base test.java, we have mentioned the folder name. Inside this folder, after test execution, this file will be generated. So let me quickly execute this test file one more time. Let's run it as test-ng test. It will execute all the three files, all the test methods, all the three test methods present inside our test class. Two test case will be passed, one test case will be failed. If you see, and if you simply refresh the project, sometimes it takes some time to generate the folder and see the file. But if you see here, my test report folder is generated now. If you go to this my test report folder, if you open it, inside this folder there is this specific file, that is all test report.html. You can simply open this file, open with web browser, and once you open this file with web browser, you can see the test report here. This is basically extend report. And if you see the information, what is the different information you can see here? First of all, name of the test cases, the method test name which we have used in our test class. If you see, these are the three test methods: create product 1, create product 2, create product 3. So all these three test method names are present. In each test method, we have logged some test information by using test.info. This is the first statement which we have logged here, that is test.info. So this is this one. After that we are printing request payload as well. So if you see test.info request payload. So what is the request payload which got sent in that specific request? what is the test response which we have received after calling that API. Whatever response is received, that also printed here. Then we have also verified status here, so we are also printing test.info status code. That status code is printed here, and at last it is printing the status test, whether it is test is passed or test is failed. Now this test.passed, from where it came? So if you see in our base test.java, after method contains this information. That logic is placed here. So if the test case is passed, it will simply print test passed. And for failed test case, so if you see the report here, first two test cases are passed and third test case is failed. For the failed test case, it is showing all the stack trace. If you expand it, it will show you why the test case got failed. It will also show you because of mismatch. Expected value was this one, but found this one. So we have intentionally failed that test case, right? So we have intentionally failed our third test case. So in the third test case, if you see, we are intentionally change this value. It will mismatch. That's why the test case got failed, and that is printed in our console as well. If you see all the console logs printed here. So this is the benefit of using extend report. It can also show you this one. So if you remember where we have configured this rest assured plus extend report demo, if you go to our base test class, inside this configuration spark.config, this is a set report name. So this is the report name which you have configured. So this is the report name along with the timestamp. At what time test case got started, that also printed here. And if you hover on this browser tab, you can see API test report. Now where we have configured this one API test report, that is customized here. Set document title API test report. You can provide the name depending on your requirement. You can give any value here. So that value will be reflect in the browser tab here. That is a API test report, and this is basically report header. For failed test cases, it will show all the stack trace and exception logs. You can also see failed test case here also. If you see, it will show you failed test case details here. We can also see detailed pie chart. If you remember, it shows you at what time it started, at what time it ended, how many test cases passed, how many test cases got failed. Inside this pie chart also it will show you. And also if you remember, we have set the environment. What is the environment? Demo environment. Tester name Jack. So this customized information also we have configured. Extend.set system info, environment and tester name. So you can, depending on your project, depending on the requirement, what information you want to add in the report, all those details you can customize. All those details you can put in your test report. So this is a simple example of extend report. I hope you understood how to configure extend report in your project. So thanks for watching this video. In next session, we will see some more interesting topic of rest assured.